Hello, Detective Fitch. I want to play a game. The tide of justice is rising around you. In 90 seconds, the water will rise to the height of the copper wires. And if you are still in the tank, you will be electrocuted.
Welcome back to the Haddon-Horror podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark,
I'm Tawan.
I'm Maria.
and today we are reviewing Spiral from the Book of Saw, released in 2021, directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, and written by Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger. Maria, can you give the people
Working in the shadow of his father, Detective Zeke Banks and his rookie partner take charge of an investigation into grisly murders that are eerily reminiscent of the city's gruesome past. Unwittingly entrapped in a unwittingly, unwittingly entrapped in a deepening mystery, Zeke finds himself at the center of the killer's morbid game.
So Spiral, it's not a spinoff. Well, it's technically a spinoff. Would you guys say spinoff?
I don't. I guess this is. I guess because it is like just takes place in the same universe type of deal.
Is it the same city?
That I don't think so. But also, do we don't even know what city they were ever in.
We never knew that, but it's like they talk about John Kramer. They're aware of John Kramer. They know what the spiral means. So okay. But either way, like this movie, it it's weird because it felt the same, but it also felt different, and it was very urban, but in a good way. But it had a completely different feel. Like I think it took more of its stylistic cues from Jigsaw and less from Saw. So
I don't think
it,
so.
it wasn't. You don't think so?
Not
I'm
really.
talking about. I'm talking about the way it looked because
Yeah,
the
it looks
Saw
more. It looks more like
the
the other song. Well, not like fully.
yeah, because like with those first seven Saw movies all feel like dirty and grimy and like you might get a tetanus shot. You might get tetanus. And then you have Jigsaw, which felt like all polished and like pretty-ish.
I
I
feel like
think
this is
this
like a good
is
in between.
yeah, okay, it's a good in between. It doesn't
Hon-
have it doesn't. Go ahead, Maria.
Honestly, it felt really different to me. Like it definitely feels more of like a standalone than anything. Um, I just like Well, okay, I couldn't really get over like the voice.
Oh my god, the voice was taking me out. I could
No, the
not
voice
take the
sounded
voice.
like it sounded like AI. It sounded like a bad AI.
It did. It sounded so bad. I was like, who? Like, no
And
way
not
you heard
scary.
that. Yeah, not
Like
scary at
I
not
all.
do
menacing.
I do know they had like toyed around with the idea of using Tobin Bell for the voice, like the OG Billy the Puppet voice, Jigsaw. But then they were like, that'd be weird because he's been dead for like 12 years, so that didn't make any sense. So they decided against that, which I'm glad they did. But they could have like done anything that got any other person, like any other voice. This voice was not menacing at all.
Like the way I would have laughed just being in that room and hearing that voice for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way it would have been so funny to me that now we're so scared of this voice and that
Yeah.
small little puppet.
Yeah, like
I
it
think
sounded like really bad. Like it sounded like they were trying to make it more like mysterious, like modulated voice to be like kind of like a mix of like a male and a female voice at the same time to maybe like throw you off of who it could be. But it just sounded very childish, not childish, but very not, and it's not comical either. But it's just like not menacing. Like I wouldn't be like scared of it.
and I think I agree with you, Maria. This one does feel different because the Saw movies have always been. two, like there are usually like two parts that eventually converge. There's usually the cop plot, and then there's usually the game plot. But this was all cop plot with traps sprinkled in to further the mystery. There was no game being played. Well, I guess the cops were playing the game, but they were playing it. They were just investigating the murders, so it was mostly all like cop plot. That's like the main difference for me. If there wasn't a game being played simultaneously, it was the game is the investigation.
I
But
feel
this
like I
was,
was okay with that for
I mean, I
this.
was too. Like I'm not complaining about that. Like I actually I enjoyed that ride, and I do want to say like when I watched it for the first time, I didn't see where they were going with the killer. It wasn't until we got to his quote unquote death when I was like, okay, so this guy's the killer. But when we get to the end and it's explained like why this is happening, honestly, this like for the first time ever, I agree with the Saw killer because like what's his name?
Real.
John Kramer was hypocritical and was pissing me off with his motivations for people. He was such a hypocrite. And then, Amanda was just crazy. And Hoffman was fucking crazy. I don't know what Gordon's deal was. I think it was just the PTSD from being in Jigsaw's trap. But like I feel like if I had to like go based off like all of them and go based off their motivation, I feel like this motivation was more believable. But Maria, this was your first time seeing this movie in general. What were your overall thoughts, and what do you want to share?
I mean, I agree. I also think that like him going after like all those cops who were all super fucking corrupted was great. And yeah, it made the most sense. And um I mean, I liked it. I liked the movie. I liked how because to me it definitely felt like a spin-off compared to the Saw movies. Like if you just watched this movie, I feel like you wouldn't really miss anything from the other movies, you know what I mean? Like I think it definitely worked out. I liked how it wasn't so connected to John. But I mean, maybe they didn't have to keep the voice, but they did not have to. Just the voice was just bad. Like that voice was, it did not instill fear in me. It was definitely just dumb, I guess. Um, I liked how it all just really connected. To be honest, though, I kind of knew it was the partner. Like I definitely was like already kind of had a feeling it was him. To be honest, that's just me. Um, and I mean, overall, though, I really liked it. I liked the traps. I thought, well, yeah, I liked the traps. Um, I liked how, he still kind of got away with it. What I didn't like was some of like the shots, I guess. Like some of the shots were kind of weird when like Chris or Zeke, I guess, is like having a moment where he's having a mental breakdown and they kind of show it to you. I thought was kind of like dumb.
I know exactly what you mean. I don't like when movies do that. Like they put like all those effects around their head and stuff to make it look like something's happening with them, and it looks very off.
It does. Like it's like I'm pretty sure because it's like I mean I already kind of think he's like, a good cop. Like he had turned in his own partner, I think, for being corrupt.
Hmm.
And honestly, like fuck all those cops. Like that whole unit was just so fucking corrupt. Like and that wasn't his fault. Um and I mean, cause so I did really like the plot of it, to be honest. I liked how it was all connected, and we weren't, jumping back and forth from the police, and then the traps, and then whoever the hell the game of the person in the traps. I like how it was the person that was in the game was the cop, so I feel like it kind of connected a lot easier. So yeah, I liked this movie.
Tawan, what about you? What are your overall thoughts on Spiral?
Yeah, I agree with what Maria said there, and I think why I liked this movie at the time when it released was because we had just got Jigsaw like a couple years before this one, and I was disappointed with Jigsaw, and I didn't really care for it. So getting this one, which is a little bit different, we were differentiating away from it going back to John Kramer at the time because one, he's been dead for so long, and you know we can dig up a corpse and reanimate him, at least in the movie universe. So once we got to this one, and it was a whole different like narrative, um, but it was still in that same like vein of universe, and kind of like the style kind of matched a bit. So I was fine with what I got when watching it, and I think why I did like it more was for like the reasonings of it just focusing on one plot and not forcing like a game of like a Saw like game for a set of extras that aren't even specific to the story. I think that's one reason why I did like it, and the game itself was involving the cops, and they were the players, but also the story was all focused on them, like Maria mentioned. So I did like that part about this movie, and as one of the main reasons why I definitely liked it a little more than Jigsaw, because Jigsaw, I felt the game in there, it was kind of like disconnected. And I was also how I felt about Saw 5, like with the group game in that one. That one felt like super disconnected from the actual plot that was happening at the time. So didn't make much sense to me. Aside from that though, I did like the traps that they came up with in this one, and will agree with another agreement with Maria is that um, I also kind of um, felt like I knew that the um, that Zeke's partner was like the Jigsaw of this like particular game, just because we didn't see his death scene. It feel like as being like horror watchers, if we don't
Yeah,
see
that's
them
what I
die.
that's what I was saying. Like
Yeah,
up until that point, I didn't know he was the killer. But then when we got to that point, I was like, so we saw everybody else die but him.
exactly. Like we already know, like the horror movie brain, that if someone doesn't die on camera, they're most likely a red herring for like to be like the killer or whatever, or they are. Um, so that was once that happened, I was like, okay, well, I know where we're kind of going with this, but we didn't know the reasoning, which Saw always makes up for, kind of like with Scream, they make up for it at the end with either the monologue or like the twist of why X, Y, and Z happen. And like you said, Mark, I agree. Like fuck them cops. I mean, I was on his side too once he gave his piece at the end, and when he actually got away too, I was like, you know what, I'm here for it. Now, tough shit to Zeke because he was trying to do his best, like as a cop, being on a corrupted like force, but um, I mean, I don't feel bad for them and what happened and all that. One thing though that I um did pick up on was what happened to the one black cop, because he was like in there for a while and he just like disappeared. It was the not Zeke, but it was like the guy. I think he was like the technician.
We were going to save that for interesting facts, but he was supposed to be killed. They actually filmed a trap scene for him, but due to the MPAA forcing
Oh,
them to cut it down so much, by the time they got the approval, it was like there was nothing really worth showing, so they just got rid
Did
of it
they ever
completely.
release it?
No, nope.
Damn,
But the
damn. Now I wonder what
MPAA,
happened.
yeah, the MPAA ruined that, so
Damn, I
it
kind of
wasn't
wonder what
even.
happened if they had to cut the whole trap.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. So,
Well, shit.
but I
Well, that's
do
good to
I
know.
do I did see stuff online that like the MPAA was harsher on this one because they thought that this one would be more mainstream, given the fact that it was Chris
Uh,
Rock and Samuel L. Jackson and even the main actress. I forgot her name.
Interesting.
Uh,
All right.
yeah,
Well, that's good to know. I hope in the future they release that. But yeah, I would think that's pretty much most of my thoughts. And aside from this one thing, Chris Rock, he was fine, but the random, like, obviously you knew we were gonna expect like some comedy with it being Chris Rock in here, but the jokes were not hitting, and the jokes never
another
win.
little tidbit that actually that's not listed on the behind the scenes info. Uh, the writers didn't write any of the comedic scenes or lines. They Chris Rock told them to just write the script, and then he after they were done and it was they got the final version, then that he would then go in and write in the comedic lines and scenes.
That's even
So like
worse.
so like that entire opening with him when we first meet Zeke, that's all Chris Rock. He wrote that entire scene.
He wanted to be on some Quentin Tarantino stuff so bad with that opening. Like it was
Yes.
given like Reservoir Dogs.
It was an homage to Quentin Tarantino due to
Get the
Pulp
fuck out! It
Fiction,
was.
which because Samuel L. Jackson was in Pulp Fiction.
Funny as hell. That's funny as
You are
hell.
on the money. You're on the money. So you're like right there.
That is funny as hell. Okay, so he was channeling Tarantino energy then, but yeah, it wasn't hidden for him. But
Well,
yeah, no, that's
my
it.
bad. Go ahead. Well, unlike some of the previous Saw films, we actually got a lot of more diverse traps. Is that good to say? There's like more diverse traps. You know,
I would
we
say so.
yes because we I think we got like that original seven. Like they had like the greatest hits that just kept repeating. Like we saw the fucking um, Venus flytrap all the fucking time, even though it wasn't really used. Like they were just like some of the traps felt like a rehash of shit we had already seen in the previous movie. So these all felt like these are all new and different, and they were all mostly set up for like the person to survive if they actually did the thing that they were supposed to do the right way. Like when you think about it, they all could have survived. Would they have been maimed? Yes. Would they have been alive?
I do have a
Yes.
question on one though.
Which one?
Okay, how was the captain, um,
Oh, she
Garza?
was fucked either way because there was no way.
Okay,
Like severing your spinal cord, you could be paralyzed, but that is very very tricky because severing your spinal cord can also kill you, and there was no way she could have done that with just paralyzing herself. There was no way.
okay, because I was like, there's no way even if she did do that that she's gonna get out of it.
Honestly, I
But
don't
what
think
was so
her or like also like his dad, I don't think he was kind of like um I mean I guess like they were just never supposed to survive, you know? Like and Peter too, or Pete, whatever his name was.
Yeah, with the
Um
glass.
yeah, like cuz I mean the glass hit him like what 2, 3 times and he was dead, gone. Um and with the captain, I mean it was definitely a loyalty test for Zeke. But like even after, he would have like even after Zeke had, shot the target, his dad wouldn't have died from blood loss, but he still would have died him getting shot by the SWAT team. Um, and yeah, and the girl, the captain, yeah, she was never gonna survive that. There was just no way. Which I mean, it kind
I
of
I
makes
think
sense, you know?
I think those two in particular were designed so they wouldn't survive.
Yeah, it kind of felt like it.
Yeah, oh, I mean, he said it himself. Like they were like literally the head of everything. Like the father did that whole Section 8 thing, which ended up killing, his dad, and then the captain. I mean, it's her unit, and her unit is corrupt as fuck, and she knew it, and she didn't do anything about it. So, so even though I mean, she might have seemed like a good person, her and the unit chief, I'm assuming his title was, but like,
Mm,
because they both defended Zeke, but it's also like they also let this shit happen.
yeah. Wait, do we
That
think the guy with the
Go.
tongue trap, could he have survived that?
I mean, if he would have fell in time, he probably. But see, then again, like if he would have fell a certain way, would it have like let him fall on the side of the track, or would he been like right under the train, but like and under in a way where it wouldn't have ran him over if when he was on like the
But can you
ground?
survive your tongue being ripped out like that?
He would have been bleeding profusely, so I don't think so. Like unless someone found it, like unless Shanks had planned on like going over there and
Yeah.
cauterizing that wound, I don't think he would have died for blood loss.
I ain't gonna lie, Shake, he must have been digging in like the Kramer like engineering books or something, because he came up with some good traps. I ain't gonna lie.
I think my favorite one has to be the one with the fingertips.
That was crazy.
That was insane. It's one of those traps where I'm just like, could I have done that?
And I don't think I could.
What about you, Maria?
No, I feel like there's definitely a difference between cutting my finger off versus ripping my finger off. And like I don't even think the machine was going fast. That shit was going slow.
Yes,
So
it was going hella slow.
The
And
so no, I
you would have
definitely would
felt
not.
all of that.
Yeah.
the simplest trap was the one with Pete. That was so simple but so effective
Right?
because like literally like the bottles are just like getting crushed and then spitting out, and I was like, this is so simple but like so fucking deadly.
They were really effective in this one with the way they went about them, which is like to think if this didn't star like Chris Rock or something, how more gory they could have been.
Right, because there's a whole trap cut out. But I want to ask you too, of from this movie, which was, I want you to give me one each. Give me one trap that you liked the most and one trap that you just didn't think was necessary. Maria, you up first.
Um,
Your favorite trap or least favorite trap?
I guess my favorite trap was the one with the fingers because I mean it's definitely a very very brutal trap, but I also feel like he would have made it, if he would have done it fast enough. He definitely would have made it. Um, my least favorite would have to be um I guess it'd be the captain's trap, the girl, because I feel like, because I mean, you're right, like that trap is a little bit like unrealistic, I feel, like she would never have survived that, which I guess was the point, but that's not, supposedly, it's not part of John Kramer's philosophy, of why he's doing these traps in the first place. But yeah, that one's my least favorite.
Tuan, what about you?
Huh. There's some good ones in this one. Um, I do. I think that um the one with the captain is my favorite because she basically got waterboarded with fucking hot wax, which is crazy. And just the simple fact of giving you the option of either you're going to get your fucking face burned off or sever your spinal cord, like those are two insane options of each other. And obviously, one of them, like we already talked about, you can't really even do. Well, you could do it, but not like you're. It's gonna and like give you any more chances of survival than not doing it and just getting your like face burned off and waterboarded, basically suffocated with hot wax. So that was a pretty crazy trap. Now, least favorite, I would probably say the one with Zeke's dad, Marcus, because the amount of blood loss, he should have already been dead, in my opinion. He had a lot of blood in those containers. Like it was a lot of blood in those jars that he was connected to when Zeke was in the room, and we saw what was like going on there. Um, so I kind of felt like he should have already been dead. But it isn't to say it wasn't a good trap. Honestly, don't think any of the traps in this movie were bad to me. I pretty much kind of liked all of them, but going in order of like, most to least, I probably would put that one like what they was called, like people called it the puppet trap. I will probably put that one at the end.
Yeah, for me, my favorite is. I think for me, my favorite is the bottle trap because it's so simplistic, but it's so effective. Like glass shards are fucking dangerous and deadly, and literally the bottles on the conveyor belt getting broken, spinning at him at fast speeds, and he's being killed by not like big shards. These are like medium shards that are just like ripping him to shreds. So that's like it's simple and simplistic, and that's I don't know. I like that. The one if I had to pick a bad one, well, yeah, like you said, there's not really any ones that are bad. There are just ones that just like I guess I wanted to. I could have seen more. I feel like
Hmm.
the finger pulling trap. I feel like that. Okay, my issue with the traps is that they were all too quick. Like I think
Yeah,
I'm used to the Saw movies where John Kramer and Apprentice, John Kramer and Co would like drag it out. He would give them time, but literally like 2 minutes for the tongue guy, barely any time with the guy with the fingertips because you spent most of that time fucking. First he was knocked out while the water was running, and then you were playing the fucking video while the water was running. At least John Kramer and Co would have fucking they wouldn't have started the water running until after everything was fucking explained. You got the water running while you talking. Like shut the fuck up, stop the video, and let me pull my fingers off.
yeah, he
So that would
definitely would
be
have survived if he had a
yes.
little more time because he was
So
committed at that point.
and he only stopped to scream in pain, scream out in agony, and that little second is what cost him his life. So I think my issue isn't the traps themselves; it's the how long they were. And then the longest trap was the one with Zeke's dad because that was the climax.
True.
But that could have actually been shorter. But that's just my opinion. But let's switch to let's go to the characters. Let's start with Boz. The should we talk about Boz? What did Boz do?
He was the opening kill.
Yeah, but is there anything we need to talk about? He was kind of
Not
key.
not really. He didn't really come back up, I believe. I think he shot and killed someone unarmed, if I recall.
No, no, that was Pete. Boz was lying on the stand. We gonna skip Boz. We gonna skip
Yeah,
Boz.
that you're right.
All right, we're gonna. Okay, let's move on to the characters, and let's start with pretty much the character that started it all. Let's start with Pete. Literally, Pete's one stupid, corrupt decision is what kicked off this entire movie. So, Maria, what are your thoughts on Pete?
Um, Pete. Oh, Pete was kind of a dick, like throughout the whole thing, to be honest. Uh, I mean, they were all kind of dicks. All the cops were dicks. Um, but Pete, I mean, he did kill that guy, like the dad of the of Shanks, but it was under, the captain's orders, under like Zeke's father's orders. Um, but he was an asshole, It's like I feel like because I think even when Zeke met up with him, after all those years and stuff, he was still like taking jabs at Zeke, and he was still just did not seem to feel bad at all about what happened. Like he was just kind of like, well, they told me to do it, so I did it. It's like you killed people for what? But yeah, no, yeah, he was a dick. Did not like him.
Yeah, and that scene with him at the church was just like, you're here leading an AA meeting and talking about this, but like you murdered someone. Like, and you're still mad at your partner and calling him out for betraying you when you killed someone unarmed? And you've been sober for 18 months. Well, them 12 steps ain't working because asking for forgiveness is one of them, and I don't think you did any of that. So, what about you, Tuan? What are your thoughts on Pete?
Yeah, it's very like hypocritical, but also um not all too different from how the police is IRL, because they do work like that. They'll do something horrendous on their part, or that anyone outside of the police force would consider to be bad, but because someone in the force turned, or not even turned, but out, like, put that information out there for something that was actually bad, they'll hold like malice against them, even though they were the ones who did whatever act was done. And you're looked more down upon for being like truthful to like a situation than backing and staying with like the force or what they say is like valid. So honestly, that's not even like too far fetched to like think of how a former officer would react to getting caught up in a situation like that. So not even like surprised, but um as far as like Pete's character himself, I mean, I didn't really see like any like redemption. It seems like kind of like one of those false like redemptions a person kind of has within themselves, to make them feel like they did good. They're working at the church. They're going like in charge of like these meetings and stuff like that. And but if you were to tell like people the truth of what actually happened, and not you know just that specific part of what happened to you, it wouldn't like you wouldn't be looked upon the same way. So he definitely um he definitely kind of deserved what he got in his trap. I mean, I didn't feel like bad for him when um he had fucking glass shards flying through him. So yeah, I think Pete deserved what he got at the end.
Well, what about Captain Garza, Angie? What are your thoughts on her?
See, I think my thing with Angie is she's kind of one of those people who they've been in their position, not their position, but they've been in this kind of job or like field for so long that they just let so much stuff slide. and they become accustomed to it, and also like a person who has um, done a bunch of this stuff and supported others um, in doing the same things as well, that they can't really be redeemed at this point in time. Like it's you could tell that she has a like affinity for Zeke because his dad was Marcus, and she kind of wants to help him out but also doesn't because she doesn't want like the force to kind of turn on her. So it's like a like it's kind of like that middle ground type of person, but they're always going to side with the opposite and not with you. And that's kind of what I got with her character. And I didn't really feel that she actually wanted to put things right or the way that they were. She just kind of wanted to lure Zeke from doing whatever he wanted to do and kind of just putting him off on the back burner so that things could, continue as they were.
Maria, what are your thoughts on Detective? Well, Captain Banks, Marcus Banks, Zeke's dad.
I thought
I
he
don't think
did.
I think
They
I don't
called
know if
him
he had a title
something.
anymore.
Well,
Was that out of respect, or was he? Was that either way? What do you think about
honestly, I feel like
Zeke's dad?
his acting compared to everybody else's acting was just like so different. You know what I mean? Like every time he was on screen, I feel like it gave a different tone to the movie than when everybody else was on. I don't know. It was kind of weird. I mean, I love Samuel L. Jackson. Like, huh?
That's just Samuel
I
L.
know, but it just didn't flow. Like it just
That's
like
just
like
Samuel.
nobody was working off of each other. It was just like it's like they made specific scenes for him and then just said, fuck everything else. Kind of like Chris Rock and his little weird scenes too. I don't know. Some of it just didn't make sense to me. I loved his scenes though. I just feel like it didn't fit the movie. Um, and I guess I liked how Shanks left him last. Because a lot of this did technically start because of him, and he did. I mean, they were treating his son like shit, but it's like it's his unit. This is he's worked with a lot of these cops for like a really long time, and not saying he let it happen, but he kind of did let a lot of shit happen, and for what? Like for the sake of what? You know what I mean? Like because he was saying at the end, he was like the citizens just felt a lot safer, but it's like was it worth it? Um, was it worth having this whole unit of corrupt cops and you think the citizens feel safer? After all those, after like a couple of like, not a couple, but like, like innocent people died. But, I mean, he was okay, I guess. I mean, I like how you can tell he just really like, loved Zeke and he really was trying to kind of help him out. But then it's kind of really your fault why things turned out the way they did. Um, and yeah, I don't know.
True.
I just feel like the writers just specifically wrote scenes for Samuel L. Jackson and not scenes for Chief Banks, Zeke's father. Like you know what I mean? Like it just didn't really it didn't really flow for me. Um, yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying there. It's kind of like and not to like shit on the directors, but I mean, it's probably the first time they got like some like long time like acting actors in here, like like big names like Samuel Jackson, like Chris
Well,
Rock.
since he brought that up, a little tidbit. Um, his first day on set, the director gave him a note how he wanted a scene to be played, and Samuel told him he wasn't going to do it that way. He's going to do it another way.
That's
And
so funny.
the director froze, and then a few minutes later, Samuel was like, "So you weren't going to tell me it had to be done the way you wanted it to be done?" Apparently, Samuel was testing him to make sure to see
Ah,
if like he was actually going to stand up for his vision. But then at a certain point, it became a collaborative effort because he's Samuel L. Jackson and he scared that poor man.
that's so funny. Because honestly, that's what I was thinking. It's kind of like they never really had like nobody of that like caliber in like a Saw movie. Like, so it kind of makes sense that they may not be not maybe not like familiar, but how to direct someone like that. So that's pretty interesting.
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going on. I thought you were giving a point about Banks. No.
No, I was kind of just agreeing with Maria on the fact that like his acting did feel like kind of weird at points. Like he wasn't in the same movie all the time, and also because of a lot of his scenes were separate. Like there were just points in time where he was just like off doing his own thing, and then he would like either get a call from Zeke or call him or try to. I mean, he wasn't really acting off of anything, but we know Samuel Jackson can act. But yeah, it just didn't feel like the direction was there.
Yeah, his scenes were very marooned. It's like it's either we just they did have those like I guess all his scenes with the other cops were flashbacks, but like in
That's
present
true.
day, all his scenes were marooned.
Yeah, or like or just with Zeke, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. So, but Tuan, what are your thoughts on Zeke? On Zeke?
So I don't think Zeke's character was like inherently bad. We obviously can see like he's troubled with his current situation because one, he did the right thing in the past, but was looked down upon for it because he didn't have his brother's back. Basically, brothers being the police department and his partner, who at the time who was Pete, and because he like spoke out on that type of stuff. Like people didn't show up for him. He got shot at, and they just weren't looking out for him because he for them didn't look out for like the force and like what they quote unquote stood for at the time. So that is interesting little character struggle there because he's trying to do the right thing but doesn't have the support, and then everyone's kind of looking down on him as well. But he was very determined to get to like the end of it. He was kind of like Strom in a little bit, like the way he was like determined to like figure out what was happening here. Because you remember like Strom back in like Saw's like 5, he was definitely he was like super determined to figure out what was going on with Hoffman and how that was kind of all unfolding. So I kind of saw him in that type of sense that he was just gonna do what he was gonna do regardless of the fact, but he wasn't trying to be on the timing of everyone else with the how they were planning on like leading out their situations and things like that. But he was a bit like not I won't say he was unstable as a person, but just a lot of he's just very emotional because there was a lot of stuff going on, which is I mean to be expected uh, considering the situations that some of the people that he knew had to be put through as far as like the games and stuff, and him finding Garza and her trap, and then eventually like seeing his dad and his. So I would say I liked. I would say I liked Zeke's character, and I do, and I think that um, I probably would have wanted to see more if they maybe would have went forward with it. Now I don't know what they could have done, but I don't think I would have mind seeing a bit more of um, the character here.
Maria, what are your thoughts on Zeke?
Well, I'm gonna be honest, but I actually liked Chris Rock uh doing his thing. Like, I don't know, it's just I mean, I didn't like the little weird scenes they put him in, but I liked how I don't know, he just kind of fit it. Like, I guess he did enough where like there was enough scenes for him that kind of um had the movie flowing. Unlike, Samuel L. Jackson, where like his scenes just seemed very like different compared to the rest of the movie. I feel like, Chris Rock fit his role. Um, I don't, well, I guess he fit his role more than I thought he was going to. Is really more what I want to say, but I just feel like um, I guess like Zeke as a person, I don't know. It was just I just like I get, he was the snitch. He was the cop that, snitched on his buddy or whatever, and I feel like especially nowadays people have a lot of different opinions about that. But I just feel like he also never really stood up for himself, like he did what he did and then just kept expecting people to like stand up for him. If that makes any sense. Like there were a lot of scenes where like the fucking cops were like going in on him and saying shit. Like I guess like that one scene where when he was taking point on the investigation and he was telling people what he needed and nobody was fucking listening. And that's when Angie was like, had to step in and be like, guys, listen. But I feel like that happens a lot throughout the movie. Um, I also just kind of feel like I mean, I get why Shanks thought he would be a good Jigsaw, but like, I don't know, they just made him so pure, I guess is the only word I can really think of. Like, I mean, he definitely snitched for, like, for justice, but I also don't see him as the type to, like, take revenge, is really what John and Shanks and Logan and everybody was doing with these games was taking revenge. But I feel like, Zeke would never. He's definitely seems like the type to be like, they happened and, things are going to be different and you just got to move on through life. And, because even though, nobody in the precinct liked him, he still did his job. Like, he was still going into work, he was still doing his thing. They were bullying him, with those weird fucking pranks they were doing. And he was still just doing his job like nothing. Like, I don't think he really held, like these cops were being killed, but he was still actively like, we have to find this guy who's killing people. Um, so I definitely don't think he would have ever. I don't think he would have made a good Jigsaw. I don't think he has that in him. Um, and yeah, I mean, he was definitely. I feel like smarter than the other cops that were kind of in the center of everything. I feel like he figured out shit pretty quickly. Like they gave him those riddles and he figured them out. And I feel like that was kind of rare in these movies. I feel like, the cops would get a riddle and they would be like, what does that mean? And it's like the simplest riddle. So, and and he even saved Pete, like, I mean, Pete had died already, but he still went in to save him. and I feel like that really shows like his character, and the type of person that he really is. But yeah, that's it.
Well, what are your thoughts on this movie's Jigsaw? William
He
Shanks
was hot.
and his motive.
Another, like,
I'll agree.
look, I thought Logan was hot. Like, I look, he was fine, but Shanks was also fine. But like, honestly, and I did like the games. I definitely feel like these were actual winnable games, except for the captain and the chief. But and I like how they go back and they like talk about no. I mean like they give you flashbacks of like once you find out he's Jigsaw, and it gives you like flashbacks, and then he literally basically tells fucking Zeke like giving him fucking hints, which I thought was so funny. Um, but yeah, I feel like his games were definitely winnable. It's definitely I mean he's definitely been thinking about this for a super long time, seeing his dad die when he was so young. Um, and I guess I liked that he, didn't see Zeke as like, a coward or as like, you know, like not like, blame Zeke, if you know what I mean. I feel like that could have gone left so fast. He could have been like, you could have done something or whatever. But I liked how he idolized Zeke for speaking up and for basically also saving him. Um, and yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of knew like halfway through the movie that it was him. Especially, and I'm like, okay, I remember in the beginning when they first introduced him, and I was like, it'd be so funny if it was the new cop. And then as the movie progressed, I was like, I feel like it's really him. And then, yeah, and then like they showed us the scene where, they supposedly find him, and they're like, well, being like horror movie buffs, it's like, when they don't show someone's face, there's most likely a reason why. And they also, and I feel like, if this Jigsaw was so hell bent on teaching the Force a lesson, and this guy literally just started being on the Force, it just seemed like out of character. And especially because, Jigsaw wasn't exactly being hostile towards Zeke generally. So I was like, it probably is the partner, the rookie. And it was. So, I don't think I don't know. I feel like I would have figured this out if I was the cop. If I was a cop, I would have been like, guys, the new guy. There's something off about the new guy. I feel like I could have solved it. But he was smart. He was super smart with all the things he did. I yeah, and I did like how some of the traps were very very simple, but they were very effective as well. Um, so yeah, I liked Shanks as Jigsaw.
Well, I'm gonna just say really quick. I agree with both you and Tuan. He was very hot. Um, and I like that this is the first time in a Saw movie where I actually understand and have sympathy for the Jigsaw and the motivations. He literally saw a dirty cop murder his father. Like and he figured out that it was due to like it wasn't just that cop being dirty. It was system wide. So like I understand. Like I get it, and I do love that he had such a like admiration and respect for Zeke because Zeke kept him alive. Because I'm pretty sure if that cop knew that the kid had saw what happened, that kid would end up dead too. So yeah, I think the one time I'm on the Jigsaw side. Even though they didn't call him Jigsaw, they didn't even give him a name. Just a copycat killer. But what are your thoughts on William Shank, aka the copycat Jigsaw? Tuan.
Yeah, I also agree with you that he I mean he did what he had to do for this because the situation that he was put in because of the cops and like actually like it's like seeing that himself um could see why like a person would want revenge against the whole like system at that point. And I don't I don't really have I don't really have a problem with it honestly. It's kind of like one of those situations where once you get to the end you see like the reasoning why it all makes sense at that point. And it's like why would like I don't see who wouldn't. Well, okay, I'm not gonna say I don't see who wouldn't agree. I'm sure there are some people who would disagree just because of the fact that you're killing people. But due to being like corrupt police force, all this stuff getting covered up, then you have a cop who really isn't corrupt and got turned on because he put someone because he put someone on his side up, and that being Zeke. So it makes sense why Shank would have like an affinity for Zeke, and would think he would kind of be on his side of things there. But at the end of the day, he's still a cop regardless of the situation. So he wouldn't have like went along with his plan, especially with his dad being involved too. Like even though he hates the corruption and all that stuff, he still loves his dad. So if he wouldn't have went with it, like either way. And I, I think as far as like motive and all that stuff goes, I think Shank had like a great motive for it, and that's more than I can say for Kramer in his time. So as far as Jigsaw reasoning, I think Shank was pretty good here in what he came up with as far as like why he decided to do this. So I'm on his side. I'm a ride with Shank.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I got cut off. Okay. Well, are we gonna? Well, you're riding with Shanks, and we're gonna ride right over to the behind the scenes info and facts. Twan, can you please?
Will do. So, um, almost said Saw 10. Spyro had a budget of 20 million and it brought in a box office of 40.6 million. Some interesting facts. Chris Rock is a fan of the franchise and actually pitched the idea to Lionsgate. The vice chairman of Lionsgate, Michael Burns, um, wait, I read that wrong. Let me read that over. Chris Rock was actually a fan of the franchise and pitched the idea to Lionsgate vice chairman Michael Burns. Rock claimed that the two of them bumped into each other at a wedding in Brazil, and Rock was very interested in starring in films that extended the franchise with the new Jigsaw Killer. As a result, they made him one of the lead actors, a co-writer, and executive producer on the film. There is no mention though of Dr. Gordon, Mark Hoffman, or Logan Nelson, the main character from the previous Saw films. Dr. Gordon was alive at the end of Saw 3D, released in 2010, where he locked up Hoffman with no chance to escape, while Logan was alive at the end of Jigsaw, released in 2017. Their fates remain undisclosed in this film. Darren Lynn Bousman did reveal, as we mentioned earlier, that Detective Drury originally had a bigger role in a horrific death scene, but they cut it out for being too much for the MPAA. Throughout the Saw franchise, the Jigsaw Killer was the original Jigsaw, John Kramer, or an apprentice, but this is the first Jigsaw Killer to not be an apprentice of the original Jigsaw. And in order to secure R rating, the film had to be submitted to the MPAA 11 times. All other attempts resulted in a rating of NC 17. Some critics' reactions: the film currently sits at a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. Variety wrote that the film takes an unexpected twist or two, but considering that it's a thriller pegged to the issue of police immortality, the film confronts that theme in a weirdly untopical, almost garishly generic way. The Guardian gave the film 1 star out of 5 and criticized its ending, writing that he felt it was rushed and half-assed. RogerEbert.com praised the cast but gave the film negative marks for its tone and Darren Lynn Bousman's direction, calling it downright illegible for its lack of tension, story, and progression in the plot. Lastly, the New York Times praised the opening scene but found it to be the only good part of the film.
Enough about them. What about us? Tuan, Maria, do we cash or pass Spiral from the Book of Saw? Maria?
Um, I okay, not that I didn't like the movie, but I definitely don't see myself watching this ever again. Um, like I did like it. There were some parts that I really did like, but I just I don't know. It just I guess just didn't catch my attention that much. Um, I mean, if I was doing a marathon, I would definitely watch it just kind of because. Um, but that's about it. And even then, I probably won't do that. So I will pass um, on this movie. Um, yeah, it just, I don't know. It just, I guess it just feels okay. Like if it was a standalone, I feel like I would have cashed, you know? But the fact that it's part of a series, and even then, it just felt too different to the series. So I'm going to pass.
And I actually agree with you. This is my second time seeing this movie. I saw it when it first dropped on, I believe it was HBO Max or Prime. It dropped somewhere during the pandemic and shutdown and stuff. And I, being like on the opposite to one, I remember not liking this movie when I first saw it. But then on this rewatch, I was like, oh wait, this movie's actually not that bad. And like you said, Maria, as an individual movie, a standalone, it would be a cash. I would be complaining that it was like a Saw wannabe, but it's still pretty fucking good. But as the ninth entry to an established franchise, it's a pass. I mean, I hadn't seen it since 2021, and if you weren't doing the Saw retrospective, I wouldn't have seen it this time. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Is it a good Saw movie? No. It's better than Jigsaw, but that's not much. So it's a pass for me. What about you, Twan?
Yeah, so I will agree with the both of you on the fact that due to it, being connected to the Saw series, um, it is a bit like weird to kind of rank it, but I do feel as if it's disconnected enough that it can kind of be rated as its own thing, at least in my opinion, because it doesn't really, besides bringing up Kramer's name in like the actual like name or like Jigsaw in general, it doesn't have really much other connection to it, and I preferred this more than Jigsaw, which, like Mark mentioned, isn't much, but um, I didn't think that Jigsaw was really necessary. Not even saying that this was either, but I preferred this over what we got with Jigsaw and how they were like at least planning to take the series at the time before Saw X got greenlit. So I think taking into account all of that, and me liking the traps in this movie and a good portion of the story, I personally would catch this movie. Now, I don't think I see myself coming back to give it like a watch anytime soon. Like kind of like Mark, I probably wouldn't have watched this or, you know, been up on it any time recently unless it was doing like a rewatch of the series. But I do like the movie, and I guess this might be the first one where I remembered liking it, and I still do like it. So
And
I will give
actually,
it
I
to
want
Cash.
to, sorry, say something else about it, but like, that review was right. Like, we saw Hoffman being fucking locked in, and then you figure out that Gordon was helping this whole time, and then they just both disappear. And then they never come back to it. That is a little frustrating, actually. I just wanted to point that out.
Well, yes, I agree. We need. I feel like we need to know. I need to see like some ultimate Saw movie with Gordon, Hoffman, and Logan. Like I need to see the three of them battle it out, like Freddy versus Jason
I was
style.
about to say not Freddy versus Jason.
That's what I need to see. We've come to the end. Next week we are going to be reviewing Saw X. Now I haven't seen it yet. I've been
I'm
waiting for it to be fresh,
excited.
fresh in my mind. Tawan's already seen it. Maria, have you seen it?
No, not yet.
So I will be seeing it for the first time within the next couple of days or so. Maria will see it by the time we review. We get gathered for our review. So I'm excited. I feel like we ran through these movies fast. I felt like it took us longer to review the Insidious movies, and it was only like 5 of them. But thank you guys so much for
That's
listening.
true.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Good night.